Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for accepting when we sent this proposal. And thank you, all of you uh, who have come joined here to share this beautiful space with us. Now, over to Nidhi.
Thank you, Debjani. I'm going to begin with a shloka, which is a very powerful shloka for a woman. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Now that means that we bow before you again and again, O Goddess Shakti, the one who resides within all living creatures in the form of power, wisdom, consciousness, and intelligence. Good evening to all of you, and thank you all for joining us once again. And as we celebrate the spirit of womanhood with our myriad of stories depicting their strength and determination and the challenges overcome by them. So sit tight, grab a cup of tea or coffee, and enjoy a cozy evening of stories of women power. Our first story in this segment is about the brave Queen Abaka, who was the first woman to fight against the Portuguese invasion, which is going to be presented by Hema Subramanian.
You're muted. Hema, you're muted.
Hema, unmute.
Hello, good evening. Well, I'm diving into the story right away. It's a time centuries ago, colonizing India, a matter of ego. Spices and textiles so well known. In guise of trading, countries took control. British, but came later. Portuguese, the pioneer. Calicut, the port of landing, they conquered the states surrounding. Tax to trade, they commanded. To use your own port, cess they demanded. But not always they succeeded. Many a time they stood defeated. Today, I tell you a story of one such time where the Portuguese struggled to suppress a small state. It was a young woman who took them by surprise and became a thorn under their skin. ದಕ್ಷಿಣ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಉಲ್ಲಲದ ರಾಣಿ ಅಬ್ಬಕ್ಕ ತೀವ್ರವಾದ ವಿರೋಧಿಸಿದ್ದು ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಹಿಡಿದು ಎದರ್ಸಿಕೊಂಡು ನಿಂದವಾಳು ರಾಣಿ ಅಬ್ಬಕ್ಕ ಕರಾವಳಿಯದ ವೀರ ರಾಣಿ ಅಬಕ್ಕನೆ ಕದವಿದೆ. The land of Dakshin Kannada, of Ullal, Rani Abakka, a befitting reply to the invaders, tied their hand she of Karavali, the courageous queen, the Abhaya queen, the fearless one, the queen of Ullal, none other than Rani Abakka Chauta. In Puttige, the capital of Ullal, the ruler Tirumalaraya saw a visionary in Abakka, his niece. He trained her in warfare and military strategies. She was an excellent archer and a swordsperson. When she was of age, she was strategically married off to the king of Banga. His name was Lakshmanappa Bangaraja. This strengthened the power in the region. Tirumalaraya crowned Rani Abaka as the queen of Ullal. It was a time, as I had said, when Portuguese discovered routes and trades, conquered Surat, Goa, Diu Daman, and Mangalore too. Across the Indian Oceans, they ruled the seas with ports along the ports, taxing, looting, marauding, living off the spices, textiles, and richness of the land of Jambudvipa. They demanded tax to ply the routes on the Indian Ocean. They forced the states to sell the spices and trade goods at a lower rate so that they could make profits out of it by selling it at a higher rate. Now, Abakka was a ruler of the small port state of Ullal on the western coast. She used to trade in spices that grew in her region, abundantly actually. She was very famously called the Pepper Queen. She traded her spices with the help of Zamarin of Kozhikodu or Calicut. She refused to pay taxes to the Portuguese for the goods she traded with the Iranians and Arab countries. She said, why should I pay taxes for what we grow? So much so, her marriage got affected. She separated from her husband. He was in favor of bowing down to the Portuguese, and she was very much against it. She ruled independently of him. She sent her jewels back, which was considered as divorce in those days. He held a grudge against her. Ullal was an important port, and Rani Abaka had become a thorn in the Portuguese skin. She garnered the support of all the neighboring states and put up a formidable front. She was a Jain queen who had Hindus and Muslims as subjects and was supported by the unity of the loyal smaller states surrounding her state. The Portuguese had a strong naval presence and their soldiers were trained in modern warfare. The Viceroy of Goa could not understand how a 30-year-old queen of a small state could be so defiant. He sent a small fleet of ships to attack and conquer Ullal. This was the first attack. They had underestimated the power of the Rani. They were defeated. Some years later, it was in 1555, the Viceroy sent Admiral Dom Alvaro da Silveira Albuquerque with a formidable fleet to capture Abaka. Now, our Abaka Rani was well prepared. She garnered the Mogavira fishermen and the Mapla fishermen and strategized with them. So, in the dark of the night, when the ships had gone to sleep, had actually drunk themselves to sleep, she led the fishermen on an attack of the ships with a barrage of hundreds of arrows tipped with burning coconut coir. The war cry of Matrubhumiyani ulisari, Matrubhumiyani ulisari, Samudrada mela, Kadala tiragalalli, Bhumiyalli, Matrubhumiyani ulisari, Matrubhumiyani ulisari, Matrubhumiyani ulisari, rent the air. Save our motherland. Let's attack them on sea, on the beaches, and on the land, was the war cry. She shot some of the Agnibanas, standing with the soldiers shoulder to shoulder. The ships caught fire. The soldiers jumped into the water, only to be killed by Abaka's warriors waiting for them on the beaches. The Portuguese were completely defeated. They went into a very unhappy treaty with the Rani, and there was an uneasy silence. Peace was maintained for some years, but in 1567, João Peixoto, another emissary sent by the Portuguese, he attacked the Ullal with a strong army, and they managed to capture Ullal and set the city on fire. They reached the royal courts, but could not capture Abaka. Abaka was a very strong military strategist, and her warfare was very strong. So she had planned it. She hid in a mosque, and the same night, the war cry again boomed the air. Matrubhumi anniversary, Matrubhumi anniversary, Samudrada mela, Kadala tiragalalli, Bhumiyalli, Matrubhumi anniversary. She led a small group of 200 soldiers and attacked and killed Peixoto. She defeated and killed many of his soldiers. The rest ran to the sea, and they were attacked by the soldiers of Rani on the beaches. And the fishermen were waiting for them in the sea before they got into the ships. With a taste of victory, she gathered some more soldiers and attacked the Portuguese fort in Mangalore and killed the admiral in charge over there. She formed an alliance in 1570 with the Sultans of Bijapur and Ahmednagar and the Zamarin of Kozhikode against the Portuguese. And there was peace in the region for some years. 11 years went by. And in 1581, the Goa Viceroy, Anthony de Noronha, led an attack against Ullal with a grand armada. But then the Portuguese had learned their lesson, and they knew that they could bring her down only with treachery. They joined hands with her estranged husband Lakshmanappa Bangaraja and his nephew Kamaraya to attack Rani Abakka. In 1581, taking advice on the war strategies adopted by Rani from her husband, the Portuguese Ullal and conquered it. Finally, they imprisoned Rani Abakka. She led a revolt from the prison, and they say that she was killed fighting against the Portuguese during that revolt. A legend, a brave heart, a woman, a first in the battle of freedom, an unsung hero, Rani Abakka Chauta. Thank you.
Sarita, unmute yourself.
ॐ महाज्वालाय विद्महे अग्निमध्याय धीमहि तन्नो अग्नि प्रचोदयात्. O divine energy of fire, give me higher intellect and illuminate my mind. That was the Agni Gayatri mantra. And she was Abakka, the Abhaya Rani, who transformed the fire within her into rage against the Portuguese invaders. She did this through the fire of the Agnivana, or the fire arrows that destroyed the ships of the Portuguese. Many centuries before her, there was another woman who was restless and seeking answers. She too had a fire burning deep inside her. Who was she and what did she do? Let's find out through the story of Mangalam Senthil.
Namaste. I'm so glad you are all here today. And I'm glad to be hosting you all today. Today might be the last meal I'm serving you all. Why, you ask? Because my husband, Mandana Mishra, and myself, Ubaya Bharati, we are going to follow Adi Shankaracharya and go behind him. And let me tell you how it all happened. A couple of months before, the great Vedic scholar and teacher Adi Shankaracharya came to our house one afternoon when I was serving guests like you. And he wanted to debate with my husband Mandana Mishra. And so it was finalized that the following morning the debate would begin. The next morning, the debate did begin, and I was made the judge. So now, how do I determine the winner? I would determine the winner with these flower garlands. How? Okay. So, each of the contestant had to wear this garland around their neck. The one who spoke with conviction, who had internalized the message, and who was calm, the flowers would stay intact. However, if there was one who had not internalized the message and whose argument was not strong enough, then his anxiousness would increase, the temperature in his body would rise, and this would lead to the flowers to wilt and dry and fall off. So whosoever garland remains intact, that person would be the winner. And so saying, I held out the garlands to Mandana Mishra and to Adi Shankaracharya. Contestants, you may now say your opening statements, I said. And Adi Shankaracharya said, man undergoes pain and suffering because he forgets to connect with the supreme consciousness. God is the only reality, and God is there everywhere. The more we seek him, the more we see his presence. And Mandana Mishra said, man undergoes pain and suffering only because he forgets to do his duties and responsibilities. The one who shuns away his responsibilities is the one who is suffering. And if I fail in this debate, I am ready to give up the grihasthashram or the life of a household man and become Adi Shankaracharya's disciple. And the debate began. The two speakers were well-mannered. They were so eloquent. They put forth their points beautifully without interrupting the other speaker. They spoke about so many things, starting from dharma, bhakti, jnana, yajna, and whatnot. At the end of the day, we had to pause the debate. After that, I resumed my duty as a householder. I fed the animals, I cooked dinner, I even served Mandana Mishra. However, I did not look at him in the eye, neither did I talk to him, because now I was a judge and he was a participant. So this continued for 15 days. On the 16th day, Adi Shankaracharya asked, God is an anubhava. He is an experience to be felt. What do you have to say about this? And Mandana Mishra retorted, God is a concept developed by fools and cowards who do not want to do hard work, who has no self-discipline, and who just forget their duties, responsibilities, and who are not willing to undergo any sacrifices or do anything at all. That was Mandana Mishra's response. And he said, how does one experience God? Could you please explain? And Adi Shankaracharya said, suppose I take this bowl of water and I add salt to it. How would the water be? Salty. Now, if I were to pour out half of the water and taste the remaining, how would that be? That also would be salty. And what if I took a teaspoon of water, even a drop of water? Even that would be salty. Likewise, the sun in the sky is the Paramatma, and we all are reflections of that one supreme soul. Now, Mandana Mishra was beginning to understand the truth of what Adi Shankaracharya was saying. He mentally submitted himself to Adi Shankaracharya. His flowers dried up, wilted, and fell off. Adi Shankaracharya was about to stand up to tell that henceforth Mandana Mishra would be his disciple. But before that, I stood up and I said, I now give away my position as the judge, and now I speak as Mandana Mishra's wife. O Reverend Sannyasi, all the sacred texts tell one thing, that the wife is one half of her husband. She is his Ardhangini. Now, by winning over my husband, you have won over only one half of him. To win completely over him, you have to argue with me, you have to debate with me and win over me too. And Adi Shankaracharya agreed. And the debate between Adi Shankaracharya and me started. Pat came the questions and the answers. And I was also very joyous. And the onlookers cheered a lot for me. And it was very evident I was going to win this debate. And on the 15th day, after our debate started, I wanted to seal the debate with this one killer question. And then I asked Adi Shankaracharya, "Oh, Reverend Sannyasi, you say that the moment in which the mind has no thoughts and the body is completely oblivious of everything around, that is the ultimate bliss. Doesn't every householder undergo this state during the act of procreation?" Now, Adi Shankaracharya was stunned. He was shocked. He had left his house when he was 8 years old, and he had experienced divine bliss when he was 10 years old. So he knew nothing about the worldly pleasures or the sensual pleasures of the world. He requested for a time of 1 month to go study about that and come back, for which I agreed. Acharya, through his powers, got his soul transported into the body of a dead king by name Amruka, and for 1 month he lived life king size. He enjoyed everything that the world could offer to him. And after a month, he came back charged with answers. He came and he said, "Oh, pious lady, having experienced both, I can now say very, very strongly that the divine bliss which one experiences is 1,000,000 times more than the bliss that one experiences at the time of act of procreation. When one enjoys sensual pleasures like different tastes in a banquet, or when one acquires and buys new things, or when one is involved in the act of procreation, an external source is needed to experience that happiness, joy, or bliss. But when I connect within myself, when I go deep within and the self unfolds, and I connect to the supreme consciousness within, that is divine bliss. That is joy. And it does not need any other external device." And then he quoted from the Bhagavad Gita. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushtaha Stita Prajnasta Dochyate. Meaning, the Supreme Lord said, "O dear Partha, when the mind removes from it unnecessary cravings and desires and attachments to the outside world, that is when the journey unfolding towards the inside begins." By now, I was convinced and I accepted defeat, and I prostrated in front of Adi Shankaracharya. However, I told him, "One last question, Sannyasi. If the entire human race leaves the grihasthashram or the life of a householder and goes on to become monks and take up sannyasi life, how would the world function? Would not there be people to work, to help, and to serve others? How will wealth be created? Who will sustain the society? And would not the entire world come to a standstill if no procreation happens?" For which Adi Shankaracharya said, "Oh, pious lady, grihasthashram is very, very important, and I do respect it as well. The attitude with which one does a thing and the intention behind every act is what is very, very important. One, when doing his duties, must be like a lotus leaf. When the water falls, it should just be allowed to slip. Experience the experience without getting attached to it is all that I'm saying. Only then you can connect to the supreme consciousness within and experience that divine bliss." What to say about this great man And then my husband and I are now preparing to follow him to become his disciples. Thank you.
चाम्पेय गौरार्ध शरीरकायै कर्पूर गौरार्ध शरीरकाय दम्मिल्लकायै च जडाधराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय. Meaning, the one whose body shines like the molten gold, he whose body shines like the camphor, she who has the tufts of hair like the river, and he who has the matted locks. I bow to thee, Shiva and Parvati. This is the Ardhanarishvara shloka that was written by Adi Shankaracharya that we saw in Mangalam's story. Now, very interestingly, Mangalam's story was the second story. This got me thinking. In the universe that we live in, everything exists as two. Don't you think so? Good, bad. Positive, negative. Truth, lie. Masculine, feminine. Just like the Ardhanarishvara that I just spoke about. Not only in our culture, in many other culture like the Chinese culture too. The yin and the yang too. Don't you think so? Now, why this masculine and the feminine represents the Prakriti and the Purusha, which creates perfect balance in this universe. Now, if this balance is disrupted, then what happens? That is when resilience comes to play. Let us see how through Nidhi Gujaral's story. Over to you, Nidhi.
Thank you, Lavanya. So I will begin my story, and it goes like this. A king and a queen were childless for a long time. So they decided to pray to Lord Shiva to grant them a boon so that they could have an heir to leave their kingdom to. After their long, hard penance, Shiva finally appeared before them. The king and the queen were overwhelmed with emotion, and they fell on Shiva's feet and they begged him for a son. Shiva said, "You are not meant to have a child, but since you've appeased me, penance, I shall grant you a son. But for that, you have to make a very tough decision." The king and the queen looked confused and worried. Then Shiva said, "So tell me, would you want a son who's brave and bright, but will only live till he's 12 years? Would you rather have a son who will live to be 100, but will be dull and dim? Choose wisely, because the boon cannot be reversed." The king and the queen were crestfallen. And then the queen said, "Oh Shiva, what will I do with a dull child? I wish to be proud of my son, even if he has a short life." So Shiva raised his hand and said, "Tathastu, so be it." Soon a beautiful baby boy was born to the king and the queen. They were overjoyed beyond belief, but they were very scared at the same time, because Shiva had decreed that the child would be killed by a tiger when he turned 12 years old. So the king took all precautions. All the tigers from the kingdom were removed, and all the borders were sealed so that no tigers could ever enter. They took care of everything. And the prince was growing up to be all that Shiva had promised. Soon it was his 12th birthday. Like every year, he went to the temple to seek the blessings of the goddess. But when he prostrated, he began hearing strange growling sounds. And as he lifted his head, he saw strange big striped cats, hundreds of them pouring out of the pictures on the walls. They were all charging at him with their deep piercing eyes and their sharp claws and teeth. with their salivating mouths. The young prince was so shocked to witness such a spectacle that he collapsed and died on the spot. As soon as the news reached the queen mother, she was delirious with grief. She wept and howled, "Oh Shiva, you took my son away as you had said, but all I wanted was to see him married. And so I shall. So what if he's dead?" She proclaimed with grief, and she sent out her people with cartloads of gold to find a bride for her dead son. The king's men went all over the kingdom looking for such a girl. And finally, they found a poor Brahmin who was willing to give away his 12-year-old daughter Shivani in return for the riches. Shivani was stunned. She felt betrayed. Was the wealth more precious to her father than his own flesh and blood? What about her dreams and desires? Did anyone even care? With 1,000 questions running in her mind, she heard her mother weeping helplessly while she bathed and dressed her and did all the wedding rituals. And right before she was ready to send her off to the palace to get married, her mother said, "My dear girl, you don't deserve to be a widow. May you have the fortune of Savitri and you keep your husband forever." But Shivani was silent. Back at the palace, the environment was strange. The funeral preparations were going right beside the wedding ceremony. Shivani was in a daze throughout the ceremony. And at the end of it, when they were ready to take the corpse to the burial grounds, she suddenly felt a surge of energy rise within her. She had never felt anything like it before. With her mother's words ringing in her ears, she stood up and said, "Wait, don't take him away from me. He's my husband. I will go where he is going. I shall not be without him. Bury me with him if you have to. I shall not be a widow." And then she went and sat next to the corpse. There were so many people who went up to her and said, "Don't be silly. You're a young girl. Don't give away your life like this. You're too young to die. You're going to be the queen and rule the entire kingdom." But it all fell on deaf ears. Shivani wouldn't have any of it. As the funeral procession progressed, they were crossing a jungle. Right then, a terrible storm hit them. It was intense. The trees began falling, the clouds were thundering and pouring like it had never rained before. Ground started shaking, and the people became so scared that they began running for their lives. So they kept the corpse right somewhere in the jungle and they all ran for their lives. Shivani ran at once and she clutched the corpse of her husband and she sat next to it in a shelter. There she was, sitting all alone in that jungle. It was beginning to get dark. She looked all around her. The storm was intense. And just then, her reflection in a puddle. And she noticed her head was smeared with vermilion and a Mangal Sutra around her neck. A Mangal Sutra is a wedding thread which is considered sacred by Hindu women or a Hindu married woman, and it symbolizes this inseparable bond between a husband and a wife. She also noticed that her body was caked with mud. So she sat there rubbing and scrubbing her body till a huge mound of mud collected. Shivani shaped that mud into a bull, like the Shiva's bull Nandi, and she began praying and worshipping it with the flowers that she took from the corpse. She prayed for a long time until the bull came to life and said, "Your devotion is pure. I will help you out of your plight." And the bull went straight up to the heavens to Lord Shiva and begged him to give back Shivani's marriage and let her be happy once again. But Shiva said, "Oh no, I wouldn't have any of it. The boon is irreversible." But to test her further, he sent demons and wild animals and ghouls and ghosts to Shivani. But Shivani wasn't the one to be scared or surrender. Instead, she offered herself to them over her dead husband's body. She stood there like a shield, protecting her husband like a devoted, dutiful wife would do. And this surprised them so much that they all came back pleading with Shiva for her cause. But Shiva had to see it for himself. So he transformed himself into a beggar, asking for alms. When Shivani saw the beggar coming towards her, she started looking here and there to find something to give to the beggar. And then suddenly, she thought of the wedding thread, the Mangal Sutra. She took it off immediately and she handed it to the beggar. Shiva was surprised to see that. But this is too precious. Why are you giving it to me? Shivani said, what else will I give you? I'm sitting in a jungle. And precious? Not for me. It's valuable only for those who can look forward to a life of marital bliss with their husbands. It means nothing to me now that I am a widow, even before I was married. And soon I will be dead, even before I had the chance to live. How I wish I could be like Savitri and keep my husband forever. Those were my mother's words. Shivani's words pierced Shiva's heart so much that he returned to his original form. And once again, he raised his hand in blessing and said, Tathastu, so be it. And the dead prince opened his eyes as if from a long sleep, and he embraced his wife who had brought him back from the clutches of death by her pure devotion and resilience. Thank you.
Yadidang Hridayam Tava. Am I audible? Yadidang Hridayam Tava, Tadastu Hridayam Mama. Sacred mantra or hymns for sacred ceremony called marriage. What is marriage? Sacred union of two souls, Hridayam, two hearts, of he and of she. Both of them commit to each other. And this Mangal Sutra, just as Nidhi said, a sacred, auspicious thread, stands for that eternal connection that happens between he and she. It is an embodiment of all those promises that they made to each other during the sacred ceremony. It is a reminder that they had promised to love each other, to cherish each other till eternity, isn't it? But, dear friends, strangely, this is only to be borne by she. So does that mean she only has to bear it as the reminder of all those promises? And he is free? Strange rules, isn't it? So what does that mean? Does it mean that it is there, the tradition is there to instill in her the belief that, look, you are complete only with it. Look, this is your only identity. And this is a reminder that she has to perform her duties. Hasn't she proved her resilience? Doesn't she tread the path strewn with thorns, yet keep radiating her inner effulgence? Does she? Well, to get the answer, let's hear Meera's story of a Shiro. Over to you, Meera.
She stood in the middle of the road with a 6 months old in her arms, breastfeeding her, and a 6-year-old son just holding his hand. She didn't know what was happening around. She was shocked. She couldn't believe anyone around her.
Like Belpuri ಮಾಡಿತಪ್ಪ
But there was something in her mind. She was able to hear that voice. Meena, Meenakshi, Vitrada, don't leave. Stay strong. At the age of 16 or 17, she didn't know what it is to be strong. She didn't know what it is to be courageous. For almost 3 days, no house, no relatives, no in-laws who promised that they will take care of her. With the 2 little children, she didn't know where to go. She didn't have even a single penny in her hand. A sari, a maroon color sari, with her child, a daughter and a son. She took care of her daughter by breastfeeding her, and she took care of her son's stomach by getting prashads from the temple. She managed to borrow money from the temple priest, and she sent out a telegram to her brother. Anna, I'm standing in the middle of the road. I don't have any place to go. Can you please come and take me? Telegrams, yeah, we expect it to be faster, but again, those days. The 4th or the 5th day, her brother came, and she went with him. Again, the voice in her mind, which kept telling, Meena, keep going. She didn't want to live in the money of her parents. The voice which spoke also knew that it can sing. At school, as a little child, her teacher used to ask her, Meena, can you sing one song? She sang that song. ஆடுவோமே பல்ல பாடுவோமே Ananda Sudandiram, which means freedom. The freedom was there in our mind. Freedom. I want to lead a life filled with freedom. To my daughter, to my son, and to the next generation, I want to give freedom. With that, she wrote her exams in Carnatic music. In her family, most of them used to sing, and she also sang. She wrote her exams, she cleared it, and she got her first job posting in a government school near Madurai called Bodinaikanur. Along with her 2 children and her mother, she started her life there. She met another friend with the same name, Meenakshi. She said, Meena, you go to school. I'll take care of your children. She understood, yes, there is someone who's going to take care of my child. The life went on beautifully in Bodinaikanur, and a government job she got transferred to yet another place called Parani in Tamil Nadu in India. She remembered a song that her father used to ask her to sing. As soon as she stepped, she kept her foot on the ground of Parani. She sang the song. Kaliyuga Varadan kan kanda deivamai kaachiyalittadu Paraniyile. She began her life as a music teacher. Apart from that, she used to give private music tuitions also. Her daughter was almost now 8 to 9 years old, and her son, 13 to 14 years old. She was happy. A letter came. She didn't know who this was. It was from her husband's second wife. Meenaka, he left us too. We are also standing in the middle of the road. She knew what it is to stand in the middle of the road or in the crossroads. She said, Kavalapadada, don't worry. I'll take care of your children's education. I'll send money every month to you. She did that till her last breath. Things were going good. Meena was scared to laugh. She was scared that if I laugh or smile, if something else, some calamity or something happens, what will I do? Everybody were in awe with her daughter and son. They used to say, Meena, your children are beautiful. They are so good. They are so nice. It went on. At the age of 16, her son, Kedari, he lost his life because of brain fever. She felt shattered. With a daughter, close to 11 years now, and her, she didn't know what to do. She, of course, had her mother as a support. But again, she felt the same situation that she faced 15 to 16 years back. But still, the life has to go on. She kept the sound and the voice keep running. Meena, keep moving. She got her daughter married at the age of 25 to 30. She felt like any other person. My duty is done. My daughter will be. But her daughter had difficult times over there. Meena always said to her daughter, Gauri, don't worry. There is a voice in the mind. Keep listening to that. But at the same time, nurture the voice that you have to keep moving ahead. Her daughter listened to that. She had 2 children. Meena was fond of her grandchildren. Every vacation, the children went to, and she ensured that she taught them Carnatic music. It was going good. She wanted to teach several more children, and she offered music lessons for free to several government schools and for children. She struggled a lot. At the time, single parenting was not easy as it is today in a couple of communities or on the social media where you get a support. So beautiful that several men wrote letter to her. Meena, I'll get married to you. Forget about that guy. I'll take care of you. You don't have to tell, I will tell my wife. I'll send you money. You just have to come. She didn't know how to deal with such situations, but the voice guided her. She said, might be I'm beautiful. You want to give life to me. But I have lost interest in all these things that you are interested when you look at me. I don't have any such cravings. I don't have any such interest. I'm just there. When she was narrating this story to her granddaughter asked her, why are you just wearing that Mangal Sutra? She just said, Meera, this Mangal Sutra is not a gold over here. It's just a thread. But the kind of a security I felt by just wearing it. People, when they looked at this sacred yellow colored thread, she's married, leave her. But beyond that, also many people tried their best. But I told them, not interested. Sometimes, Meera, that man who tied the so-called 3 knots, he ran away. Lucky that he was able to tie 3 knots to yet another person also. But for me, this is more than a Mangal Sutra. To me, this is just security. And that security she carried along with her, even when she had cancer. 6 feet under the ground, her wish was to wear this and move on. A Mangal Sutra, for some, it's an identity, a protection. For Meena, sometimes it was beyond protection. Just need to be there so that nobody falls into a trap. This is a story of N.S. Meenakshi, a Carnatic professional singer, and I'm her granddaughter. Namaste.
Such a touching story, Meera. I'm speechless. नित्यानंदकरी वराभयकरी सौंदर्य रत्नाकरी निर्धूताखिल घोर पावनकरी प्रत्यक्ष माहेश्वरी प्रालेयाचलवंश पावनकरी काशीपुराधीश्वरी भिक्षां देहि कृपावलंबनकरी माता अन्नपूर्णेश्वरी. Salutations to Mother Annapurna, who always gives joy to her devotees, along with boons and assurance of fearlessness under her motherly care, who is a repository of great beauty and makes their minds beautiful by the touch of a gem of her inner beauty, who purifies all the poisons and sufferings of their minds by the touch of her compassion and bliss, and who is a great goddess manifested visibly in Kashi, who sanctified the lineage of the king of the mountain of Himalayas by taking birth as Devi Parvati, who is the ruling mother of the city of Kasi. O Mother Annapurna Eshwari, please grant us the arms of your grace which supports all the worlds. Annapurne, Sadapurne, Shankara Prana Vallabhe, Ani Vairagya Siddhyardi Bhikshan Dehi cha Parvati. Salutations to Mother Annapurna. O Mother Annapurna, you who are always full with the gift of food and blessings. You who are the beloved of Shankara. O Mother Parvati, please grant me the arms of your grace to awaken within me spiritual knowledge and freedom from all worldly desires. We have seen in Meera's story, she said she didn't have any desires, but she wanted to feed her children. Women are nurturers. They start nurturing their child right from when they are in the womb. The whole entire mankind is nurtured by each one of us. But if she is pushed to the corner or she's pushed to the edge and the cliff, what does she do with the food that she cooks, with the food that she nurtures? She can do a lot, isn't it? Let's watch what happens when the wife decides to feed, in Lavanya's story.
Hi, myself, Margaret Shanti, an MSc Gold medalist, currently working as a teacher in SRP Trust School, Coimbatore. I love chemistry so much so that every time I meet somebody, they cease to exist as a person after a few minutes, Amma. They become a chemical to me. You see, something whose character has been identified and reckoned with. That helps me formulate my behavior in his or her presence so that I could avoid any accidental explosions. It's a quirk, I know, a peculiar one at that, but then it's a harmless one. For you, tell me, what is a human minus his or her chemical nature? Let me give you an example, you will understand better. Our senior secondary school economics teacher, no, Pramila Madhav. To me, she is the element bromine, heavy. Hair, a little reddish brown tint, volatile. One will have to be really careful in her presence because she is capable of inflicting wounds that will never heal. does not do everything on her own, but works well when she is along with others. See, it helps me formulate my behavior when I'm there with her. Very interesting. You all should also try something sometime and see. Now, listen, I'm here to tell you all my story. I don't know many of you here, but something tells me you all will give me a listening ear. Maybe this story has something to tell you all too. Listen carefully. I really don't remember when this feeling started actually for me. It was like any other day that day. I woke up, I finished all my morning chores, and I was heading to the school before the assembly bell rang. There was this perfect boy in the school who was standing inside the school behind the closed gates, who was making a note of all the children who were late and were standing on the other side of the gate. I know what will happen to this list of children. The name will go to the notice board and punishments will be meted out. My neck, it just craned to take a look at the teacher in charge, the god of school gates. His stance was impeccable yet familiar. Legs a few feet apart, hands clasped at the back, holding a cane, his long, dainty fingers clasping it. Authority in every fiber, the quintessential school principal, Ebenezer Paulraj, otherwise my husband. I just observed Ebenezer Paulraj as he was surveying his kingdom. I noticed his curl in the lip and his voice, which never crossed a certain decibel, but yet is capable of ripping a child's esteem into shreds in a matter of seconds. It was that moment I felt that hate for him, and I mouthed it out loud. I hate him. I hate my husband. I hate Ebenezer Paulraj. I hate him. And I just looked up to see if there could be a hurling meteor, a sandstorm, or some super phenomenon that is usually supposed to accompany such momentous and sacrilegious revelations. But the sky, it was a nice silver blue. Literature proved wrong again. You know, I met Abby when I was 22 years of age. During my university days, I was so focused on being ahead of everybody. I didn't have any time for boys or real time romance. Here and there, I happened to read Milton Boons, and I would fascinate. You know, maybe someday there would be a man who would be worthy of such romance in my life. I always thought chiseled features meant sensitivity. And Abby had chiseled features. He was tall, dark, handsome. And the very first time I saw Abby in the youth group meeting, I fell in love with him. And when he opened his mouth to sing, I knew I would do anything in this world to just have him. And Abby, in between the song, would give a glance at me and smile. I gleamed. And I know Abby also had the same feelings for me. I carried the happiness as a halo around me. And even before anybody could sniff of a scandal, Ebenezer Paulraj did exactly what he was expected to do. He brought his parents home to mine, and our wedding date was fixed. My parents, how much they adored Abby. You know, of the 5 important elements that conspired the universe, I would call myself as water. Water that moistened, water that heals, water that forgets, water that accepts, water that flows tirelessly. In the world of chemicals, Water was the universal solvent. And in the first year of my marriage, my love for Rebbe was like that solvent. I was so drunk in love. All I wanted was to please him, to keep him happy. And I would do anything that he wanted. In the first 18 years of our marriage, I found I was pregnant. And I was so excited that in that excitement, I forgot to notice that Abhi had become quiet and withdrawn. Margadam, he called that day in a voice softer than usual. You see, Abhi always felt Margaret and Shanti, both were very common names. And so he gave me a special name, Margadam. And you know what Margadam in Tamil meant? Emerald. And every time he called me that, my heart, it used to burn a fiery green flame. Margadam, I really don't think we should have this baby now. Was it then that I smelt that fragrance so toxic just go up through my nostrils? Was that the first time? I don't recall. Long hair does not suit you. Cut it short. Margadam, why do you need to do doctorate? Do beard instead. Margadam, Bel Puria. Let's go to a restaurant. No. I was so drunk in love. I just wanted to do what Abby wanted. And so I agreed for an abortion. I sought the clasp of his hand. Something didn't feel right. I felt very guilty and a slow tear slid. After a week, when I was lying in the bed, Abby woke me up in the middle of my night, fondling me, coming closer to me and whispering in my ears, "Oh, my child, oh, my sweet little girl, my little girl with no bouncy breasts and the woman's bush. I love you like this, my little girl. Stay like this always." He said that and bit my ears. Little girl? What does he think me of as? Somebody whom he could control and mold? Where was the woman Margaret in this? For the first time, in the bed right next to him, I was feeling afraid. Thoughts crossed on my mind and I was like, if I have to leave him, where will I go? But then in these years, my family, they have grown so fond of Abby. I even tried talking about this to my mother, but my mother just shut me up. She said the best thing in marriage is to remember the good days and to forget the bad ones. Above all, there was this stigma of divorce, you see. We never had a child. I never conceived after that. I became weak mentally. And as I was growing weaker, we had petty fights. But Abby, he never argued. He never rose his voice. He would shut himself up in stonic silence until I gave in. Until I came to him and I did everything that he wanted. It was always about him. Ebenezer Paulraj, biting, seething, odorless, dense, oily, explosive, capable of rubbing out everything that is fluid and alive. He was concentrated sulfuric acid, H2SO4, hydrogen sulfide, king of chemicals, oil of vitriol. Abby suddenly became a stranger to me. A very despicable one at that. A bully, a tyrant, somebody whom I could not live with anymore. But then, James and Joyce taught me how. Now, James and Joyce, they were the goldfish that Abby had bought to keep his body pressure low, blood pressure low. One morning, James was floating up in the fish tank with his belly slit open. Abby was shocked. He said, Joyce must be feeling really lonely. I really think I'll have to get another James now. But then I was looking at the sleeker fish, Joyce, and to me, she seemed really happy. Water, the universal solvent, flows tirelessly, but it is also capable of dissolving and destroying. I am familiar, but I'm also typical, and Abby forgot to notice this. Abby loved to run. If there was one weakness that Abby had, it was food. Rich, creamy, calorie rich food. And I knew what to do. But Abby was always careful, you know. He never had a second helping. He loved his body even more. The next day I woke up. I made breakfasts, rich ghee fried puris, potato cauliflower kurma, fried eggs sunny side up, and big glass of creamy milk with 2 full teaspoons of sugar. And when Abby said no, I teased him. Hey Abby, now you tell me now. Yesterday you seemed a little not so great in the night. Now don't you need strength for tonight? Come on, have one more. If there was something that Abby did not suspect, it was flattery. To him, flattery was the absolute truth. And that made my job easier. Abby had breakfasts, lunches, dinners, mid-morning snacks, afternoon snacks, even late-night snacks. I know it would not be very easy for me like Joyce, but I was ready to wait patiently. And after a year, fat found its way home. What became mine became his. The sleek edges disappeared. The breaths shortened. The belly jiggled. And Abby became a fat man, an easy man. His fondness for food blurred his razor edge. He sought me more and more, the one who could appease him in every single way. Ebenezer Paulraj became a man that I could live with once again. Well, you see, when you add water to sulfuric acid, it splutters in the beginning, but then slowly it loses its strength, its bite. The secret is to know when to add the water and how much. God did not make Ebenezer Paulraj a fat man. I did. The universal solvent. Shh.
Jalam, neer, tanni, aqua, aag, pani, and the list just goes on and on and on. Water. Culturally, the world over, Water is associated with energy, healing, adaptability, flexibility, and change. We saw how the water element in Lavanya's story did the magic. Even among the Panchabhutas, the water has the highest impact on this body because we are 70% constituted of water. Water has memory, it carries thoughts. Yes, and I'm sure you all know of the many experiments which were conducted when people tell good things and bad things and not so nice things to water and how the molecular structure of the water changed. Apaha paramam pavitram, says the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, meaning water is the most pure of all things. It can be infused with any power. It can be taken completely to our advantage. It can be used to our advantage. Either water with thoughts can be used to create or to destroy, heal or to hurt, make or to mar, curse or to bless. Now, we saw in Lavanya's story how the water element did the magic. Now, can this very same water be infused with magical thoughts, with noble thoughts? And if offered to someone, will it be able to put off a catastrophe which is coming? Oh my God. For that, we should tune in to Sarita's story to listen.
संतांची ये गावी प्रेमाचा सुखाळ, संतांची ये गावी प्रेमाचा सुखाळ, नाही तळमळ दुःख लेश. Meaning, come with me to this village of saints, where there's comfort of love, no longing, no sadness. Come to me, to this village, which is the premise of our story. A quaint little village on the banks of a river, with the Sayadri Mountains in the background, a village in Maharashtra. If you listen very closely, you can hear the sounds of the morning, the chirping of the birds, the temple bells, the barking of the dogs, the crowing of the rooster, the gushing of the river. This village had different kinds of houses. There was only one vada or a mansion. This vada belonged to Bap and Parvati Bai. It was an ancestral home passed down through generations, right from the Peshwa Maharaja time. This vada had a courtyard in the center. This was where all the public gatherings and social gatherings happened. There was another space, a courtyard, especially for the women. That's where all the ladies got together and spoke about their day, shared recipes and stories. The women who lived there and the women who worked there. There was another space in the vada, which is where the kitchen and the storeroom were. Here, women would clean the rice, pound it, and also grind the masala, all to the sound and the beats of the folklore of Maharashtra. In this space, there was a tulsi plant, a sacred plant to Parvati Bai. And that morning, she stood there lighting the lamp. And that's when she heard a sound, the sound of Bapura. Parvati, Parvati, they are coming. She froze. They are coming to our vada. For the past few months, there was this group of dacoits who were terrorizing the village. They were very peculiar. They would not only announce their arrival in the village, they would also announce the specific house where they intend to steal from. Bapurao came running with his hands trembling and he shared the message. Your house is our next target. Do not hide the valuables, neither call the police, or there will be a bloodbath. With trembling hands, he stood in front of her. She reached out to him and said, what do we do? For you see, in the cellar of the vada was ancestral treasure, gold coins and antique artifacts. There's no way I will let some dacoit come and take away my ancestral wealth, which has been passed on for generations. I will take all these able bodied men or servants that we have and then go into the village, also choose a few of my friends, and we will all go outside the village and wait for the dacoits and then attack them. Uh, okay. So Parvati Bai looked at Bapu Rao and said, Rao Sahib, that's a little difficult. They will have weapons with them. And also, they are known for beating people into a pulp. You're unnecessarily going to put everyone in danger. But there's no other way. I have to do this. I have to do something to protect my treasure. Parvati Bai thought for a moment. Then she smiled at Bapurao and said, leave this to me. Let me handle it. You handle it. What will you do? You're a woman. And with the air of a man who had something important to do, he left the house. Parvati Bai stood there smiling after him. Well, this was not the first time the topic of women came up, but she by now knew the battles that she wanted to fight. She smiled and rushed back into the house to work on her plan. Soon, darkness fell. Parvati Bai was alone with the maidservants in the house. She summoned all of them into the courtyard, and all the women were very, very nervous, trembling with fear. They said, Tai, we should not be here. What if the dacoits do something to us? Shh. Don't worry, we'll all be fine. You just need to do as I tell you. She looked towards the head cook and said, you need to make the best meal ever prepared in this vada. You need to create and prepare a feast for 50 people. There was a collective gasp. 50 people? Yes. And it should be the best meal ever prepared. Now hurry up and go. They should be ready by midnight. So they all dispersed and the kitchen started filling with activity. Soon, there was a most delicious aroma from the kitchen. Now she knew that everything was in place, so she also got to work. She took some plantain leaves and put them all on the floor at the social gathering space, the courtyard. Then she went into her chambers. She dressed in the finest khansari. She took out her finest jewelry and wore it. She also added some lipstick. She was managing to look as beautiful as a middle-aged woman could. And then she went down to the cellar. And there she opened the chest and took out a spare jewelry. She took the jewelry and put it on a plate. And she kept the plate aside in the courtyard, covered with a cloth. And then they waited. Soon it was night, dark. The only sounds were that of the crickets and the owl. But then they heard horses and a knock. Parvati Bai took a deep breath and collected herself before she went to the door and opened it. And there she was staring at the bare chest of a muscular man. She looked up, and towering over her was this huge man with the piercing, brownest eyes she had ever seen. He had a chiseled face and a big mustache. She just stood there, gazing, and he was gazing back at her. Who is this woman who's dressed in all her finery and here to welcome? Bhau, she said. Bhau, yes, Bhau, we have been waiting for you since we got the message. We are so excited and happy to have you at our home. Please, please come in. And the chief of the dacoit was surprised. Who is this woman? And she's calling me Bhau. We're here to rob your home. Yes, yes, we're aware of that. But before that, please come and have this hearty meal that we have prepared for you. And then you can get to work. Before he could understand what's happening, she thrust a glass of water in his hand. Of course, they were thirsty. They've been traveling for hours. As he drank that water, he kept staring at this woman. She took his arm gently and pulled him inside, and along with him came all the other dacoits. She told them, "Here's water. Please wash your hands and face and freshen up and come and sit and have this meal that we have prepared for you." And soon enough, the aroma of the meal was so intoxicating that they couldn't stop themselves. There was masala bhat, puri, bhaji, shrikhand, lonsa. Soon enough, they all sat down and devoured each and every morsel of that meal, licking their fingers. The head cook and his team had done a good job, even if they were trembling in fear. As Parvati Bai stared at them, rubbing their belly, she knew this was the right time. And she went and got a plate of the jewelry. They were all stunned. What is this? This, Bhau, is all that I have. You can take it. You can take all my jewelry. This is all for you. The treasure from Ashram. Take everything. I shall leave the Mangal Sutra though, because that is my husband's. That is the something that I wear for the long life of my husband. Everything else you can take. As she removed pieces of her jewelry, the dacoits stood there watching her, wondering what to do. "Here," she said. "Please don't embarrass her. Please don't embarrass us," said the dacoits. The chief dacoit was speechless. "You have called me Bhau. We had water from your home. We had food, your salt. You treated us like family with so much warmth. And how can we take your treasure? Please. You've called us your sister. Please. We don't want any of your treasure. Take it. Keep it with you." "Thank you. I'm honored with your gesture," said Parvati Bai. Bhau, did you come across a group of men outside the village?" "Ah, I know what you're talking about. Yes, in fact, we got into an argument and I tied them to the tree." "Tied them to the tree? Oh, don't worry. They're okay." "Okay, I will let them go. And henceforth, I will not let any dacoit come into this village or your home. You have called us Bhau. We shall protect you." Saying that, chief and the dacoits left the house. After some time, Bapu Rao returned with a limp. He was embarrassed. He had heard about what Parvati Bai and her friends and the women in the house had done. And unharmed that they were, and they also preserved his ancestral treasure. He was astonished, in awe, and proud of his wife. And soon enough, Parvati Bai became a legend in her village, and till today we hear her stories being told like it is told here. "Santanchi ye gavi, premacha sukhara, nahi talmala, dukha lesh." And then the village became the same again.
What does the jewelry mean to a woman? What does this chain mean? What does these bangle mean to a woman? What about the nose pin? Are these jewelry meant for women to attract them or to seduce them? Or in the name of a collateral in exchange in the wedding? In Parvati's story by Sarita, wasn't it a tool, a strategy she used and said, just leave this Mangal Sutra. It's a jewelry too. But Bhav, he left it. What about in the next story? when it is between the jewelry and love. Inviting you to listen to the story by Sri Karuna.
This is a story I'm presenting, written by Olga, and it is translated into English as Liberation of Sita. The whole palace was lit like a new bride. Janaka's palace it was. There were flowers, there were lights, there was joy, there was excitement. Everything was so beautiful. Why? Because Sita was married to Rama, and all her sisters also were married to Rama's brothers. All the corridors were silent, except for the footsteps of the maids who were catering the needs of these newlywed couples. It has been 2 days, and in one of the chambers, Sita and Rama, they could hear the laughter and merriment of the other couples too. Sita had overcome her inhibition to talk to Rama. And Rama now knew he came out of his innocence what to do with Sita. And like she was his new bride, he was going on exaggerating about his heroic deeds before the Swayamvara. And Rama could go on and on, but Sita stopped him. Enough of this devastation, Rama. Can you tell me if you saw something very special during your forest rounds? And Sita could see lots of love in Rama's eyes for her. She felt she didn't need any jewelry, any adornment than that love. And then Rama said, yes, I saw a very beautiful woman, Sita. She was extraordinarily beautiful. Immediately, Sita's face was crestfallen. How can he praise some other woman more beautiful than his new wife? She thought in her mind. But Rama was too naive and innocent to see her crestfallen face and tease her further. So he went on. Her smile was so enigmatic. Her eyes, they looked like deep ocean which had fire and ice at the same time. Oh my God, I just cannot forget her. She is the wife of a sage. And when she smiled, in that smile, there was love, there was compassion, there was anger, there was dismay. All the expressions were there in that smile. Still, that smile was so enlightening. But then sage Vishwamitra told me that her name was Ahalya. But I was so disappointed because I heard her character was not good. But still, I am not able to forget her, said Rama. And Sita thought, Ahalya, that means untouched by a plow. I am the daughter of earth, and I came out when a plow touched. And Ahalya, that means untouched by a plow. We both seem to have some connection, she thought. And when she was lost in thoughts, Rama said, I am right here in front of you, Sita. Why are you thinking elsewhere? Your thoughts should be on me. She said, no, but Ahalya character. Oh, you're too naive and you're too innocent. Forget about that. Saying that, he sealed her lips with his. And Sita forgot all about Ahalya and everything. Sita was breathless in Rama's love. Days passed and they went to Ayodhya. And Sita was pampered by all her mothers-in-law. She was truly pampered and she forgot all about Ahalya. One day, Kausalya summoned her that some ladies have come to see or meet Sita. Then Sita had to dress up more beautifully. She had her favorite dupatta and she went and met Kausalya. She was looking so beautiful, so beautiful. Kausalya, as soon as she saw Sita, said, "She's the daughter of Mother Earth." And all the ladies were bedazzled by her beauty. They said, "How lucky Maharaj Janaka is to get a daughter-in-law who surpasses the beauty of Ahalya." Sita was startled. Ahalya? As soon as the ladies left, she asked her mother-in-law, "Mother-in-law, who is Ahalya?" And Kaushalya said her, "Ahalya is a very noble woman. She is the wife of sage Gautama. But alas, she is cursed." What? What happened? You know, Ahalya was, Indra wanted to, this one Ahalya. And he knows that Ahalya was a very beautiful woman. She was very chaste and she will not succumb. So he disguised as Sage Gautama and came in the early morning dark hours when Sage Gautama went out for bath. And Ahalya succumbed to him, satiated him. And then Sage Gautama returned. And when he returned and saw this, that time Ahalya realized she was stupefied. And then she turned into a stone. Now she lives out in the forest out there. And there is no roof above her head. And she is under the sun and under the rain. And poor thing. How come Kaushalya is saying that Ahalya is full of character? Why did Rama that Ahalya was characterless? She wanted to ask Rama, but she couldn't. A few days passed, and it was a period of exile, and Sita had to disown all her silk garments, but she was happy. She had to leave the palace and go into the forest. She was happy. She was seeing all the trees and the river and the birds and everything. And she said, "Rama, I feel as though I'm coming back home." Rama said, "Of course, you're the daughter of Mother Earth. You will certainly feel like that. This is all your empire," said Rama. Sita felt at home. And when Rama and Lakshmana were meeting sages and all, one day she wandered towards the waterfall. And the water was so clear and it was flowing, and beneath the water, there were pebbles of myriad colors. And in those pebbles, Sita was immersed. She was deeply immersed. Then somebody came by. And, "Who are you, my dear?" She heard this voice. She looked up. What a brightness! What a beautiful woman! She said, "I am Sita, the wife of Ramachandra." "Oh, I see," smiled that lady. And in that smile, Sita has seen such kindness that she has not seen such kindness in any smile throughout her life. "Who are you, mother?" asked Sita. "I am Ahalya." "Ahalya? Have you heard about me?" "Yes, yes. I'm so sorry that, you're deceived. And where did you hear about me?" asked Ahalya. "And what did you hear? It is so wrong, no? It is so unjust that you did not even know that Indra came in the guise of your husband. It's really unjust." Sita was trying to show sympathy. Then Ahalya smiled. "Did I know? Or didn't I know? You knew then? Then Ahalya said, does it matter? What is the truth? Sita asked. What is truth? What is untruth? Can anybody define that? But, that day Indra came and he thought I was a woman, I was an object, and everything happened. And after that, my husband came. But for him, I am his belonging, which was impurified. And that was it. Purity, impurity, right, wrong, truth, untruth, honor, dishonor. We're all lost in between. But isn't there any truth? Sita asked. My husband, Sri Ramachandra, he loves me. And I know that is the truth. And one day, you will also know the truth. But you were cursed. You were out in the, you were a rock. You lost your husband. That is his loss. But I gained wisdom, said Ahalya. Did you really? Is your wisdom is not finding truth and untruth? You will know my truth that my husband loves me, Ahalya said. She saw that Sita was annoyed. She saw that and said, I know you're not able to understand today, but she patted her shoulder and said, mark my words. When there is truth, there will not be any inquiry. And don't ever agree for a trial. Don't succumb under authority. Saying that, and Sita walked off from there. She was agitated, she was irritated, she was annoyed. And she came back. She tried to tell Rama she met Ahalya. Rama was not happy about it. This all happened. And it was the time Rama defeated Ravana. And Sita was waiting. Lakshmana came. Lakshmana's face was crestfallen. What happened? I hope Rama is all right, thought Sita. She said, Lakshmana, what happened? Is your brother all right? Yes, my dear sister-in-law. What is it? You have to undergo a trail of chastity. Sita lost control. She saw that she thought that the earth was falling beneath her feet. Immediately she remembered Ahalya. Purity, impurity, truth, untruth, all men are the same. All her words came back to her. And she didn't know what to say. Then Lakshmana told her, it's not for his sake. He trusts you. It is for the sake of the society, so that you can live with honor. He is very crestfallen. He is guilty. He is crying. And then Sita agreed. She thought, okay, I have to relieve Rama of his agony. He's not doing it for, anybody else. He's doing it for me so that I live with honor. It is his love that is making him do this. And Lakshmana thought, oh, she's the daughter of Mother Earth. And Sita went and jumped into the fire and came out and went back to Ayodhya. And Kaushalya said, my daughter-in-law is such a chaste woman. And Sita thought, should they say this? Everybody is still thinking I'm chaste or unchaste. Rama's love was unchanged. Everything was going on fine. But Sita longed to meet Ahalya. She wanted to meet her again. And someday she will meet Ahalya again and have answers for her and will tell her that I did not do it for myself. I did it for Rama. But still, till that time she meets Ahalya again, till that time, that pain in her heart will go away. That is a story for another day when Sita will go back to Mother Earth.
Check her teeth. Young and fertile? Would she be supple and good in bed? Looks beautiful. Well, that's a bonus. A show of strength. a show of might, a show of position in life, enough to claim, to proclaim, the woman is mine. A princess, a Brahmin's wife, a laundry woman, gardener, seamstress, Sita, or Ahalya, every girl blossoming into woman, all face the same plight. Doubt, doubt, doubt. No fault hers. Abducted for revenge, lustful deceit, an obsession to possess, a mad rage at rejection, all men's deed. Yet the repercussions, like an unwanted object, put on trial, cursed upon, shunned, abandoned, thrown out. Over years, years, and generations, the narrative went on and on and on. But halt! Women stand up and discover themselves. Or do they?
पंछी बनो उड़ती चलो मस्त गगन में, आज मैं आजाद हूँ दुनिया के चमन में. Azad, Azadi, freedom of mind. You know, friends, that's the only thing I always keep aspiring for, right from my young days. My mother often used to tell me, Lachi, that's my name, Lachi. Lachi, you are a girl. You should learn to adjust, or else life will teach you a lesson. Takka, you'd reply. Life me tenga. Rather, I would teach life a lesson, man. Some more seasons passed. Happily, freely, joyfully. And then, time's up. Ding, 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 ding. My wedding bell rang. And I got married. All the village elders said, you know, friends, ah, Lachi. What a wonderful match. Perfect match made in heaven time. You are beautiful. He is handsome. Besides, he is the chief milkman of such a large estate. He will definitely keep you happy. Ah. I must say, friends, I trusted, I believed their words. And with my perfect life partner, I began my journey in my new home. Life was going smooth. I was helping him in tending the cattle. And my husband always, Lachi, understand now? You know, right? All this. And then one day, when my husband was away, I had a visitor, a young man. I learned his name was Bhoja. And he was a very influential man. He was like the main assistant of the master of the estate himself. And that he had come here to inspect the cattle. Very good, I welcomed him. Instead of inspecting the cattle, that Bhoja was inspecting me more, friends. I seriously couldn't find any meaning behind his anyways. Bhoja's visits increased in frequency, more often, more often, more often. And then one day, when my husband was away again, Bhoja came. But this time, not alone. The master of the estate was himself with him, with Bhoja. And the master too gave the same reason, to inspect the cattle. No, 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 no. He didn't even go towards the cattle. He straight came towards me. And asking this and that and that, he was coming closer and closer and closer. And when he came this close, he gave out a smile, a weird, repulsive smile. Yo. Now, the meaning behind this smile, I could clearly understand. So the moment he made a further advance, I pushed him. The master fell unconscious. And that Bhoja assistant, his jaw dropped. Then he rushed to the master's rescue. And then he came to me and said, Lachi, terrible mistake, terrible mistake. But master, big heart, big heart. He will forgive you, huh? You, shh. Forget it. Within 3 of us, just 3 of us. Ha, ha, ha. I could clearly see, friends, fear in his eyes. And the master and Bhoja quietly left. Yes, I was so happy and excited with my victory. Victory over that great master, without whose words even the leaf cannot fall from the tree here. So I was feeling happy that today, when my husband returns, I'll share the joy with my husband. And just as he came, I told in details everything, that incident, what happened. My husband, he yelled at me. Yes, he yelled at me, dear friends. He said, Lachi, have you lost your mind? You ruined that master's prestige. Oh, what will happen to my job now? Seriously. Master's prestige, his job. And what about me? Nothing. And he continued, listen, Lachi, you cannot be in water and be enemies with the crocodile. The problem, you know what, is in your beauty, Lachi. You are too beautiful. That's the problem. So, but beauty is not enough. So you have to adjust to survive, okay? My world shattered. Still, I continued. I continued to live there, to do my regular work. Why? I was adjusting. A week later, my husband brought that Bhoja, that master's assistant, himself in our place to cure an ailing buffalo. Fine. But then, knowing everything what has happened, my perfect husband, leaving me alone with that Bhoja, left the home. Bhoja cured the animal. I thanked him. Suddenly he turned. He caught my hand and said, Lachi, now you cure me, please. I looked at his eyes and said, forgot, huh? That day? He said, Lachi, I'm ready to die even in your hands. But your beauty, your power, your charm, you have just possessed my entire existence. So please be mine, Lachi. Let us unite. That's when, friends, my husband's those words crossed my mind. I thought, acha, last time I played straight. So let me this time play differently. Bhojaji, I said, Bhojaji, if you insist now, let's meet then tomorrow at sunset here in the cattle shed. Yes, Next day at sunset, I brought my husband along with me, dear friends, to the cattle shed. I was so excited. Now Bhoja would be exposed. If my husband sees him there, he'll definitely take some step. We came there. Bhoja was there. My husband could see Bhoja. Smart Bhoja came up with an excuse. I have come here to check the quality of your fodder. And my perfect husband trusted him. Oh, Bhoja ji, everything is fine now. Nothing happened. Next afternoon, finding me alone near the pond, suddenly Bhoja appeared and he was angry. Elachi, why did you bring your husband there yesterday, huh? Bhoja ji, what to do, you know? Nowadays, no, my husband is very much suspicious of me and he accompanies me everywhere, wherever I go. And this time, I gave another timing, an odd timing, before sunrise, the same cattle shed. And I forced my husband to wake up. At that odd hour, I brought him to the cattle shed and I was excited. No, so definitely if Bhoja is exposed, my husband would take some step, prove his loyalty. Bhoja could be seen. But Bhoja once again came up with another excuse. I have come here to collect the cow dung. Today there is some ritual in the master's house. And my husband, Bhoja ji, you should have told me, no. I could have brought. This way, dear friends. I kept on giving some odd timing, odd place for a meeting. And every time I was bringing my husband, thinking Bhoja would be exposed, thinking my husband would take some step. Every time Bhoja was coming up with some excuse, and every time my perfect husband was perfectly trusting that Bhoja. I was trying to tell him, see, what could be obviously seen. I was trying to put that idea in his mind that, come on, man, do something, that Bhoja has some ill intention. But no, what did he say? Lachi, the problem is in your beauty. The problem is in your thinking. Bhoja ji is very genuine. Then one afternoon near the pond, I spotted a snake, dear friends. That snake was struggling. It was rubbing itself against a stone. But the moment later, when it could cast off its old skin, smoothly, happily, freely, it could slither away. Something happened within my mind. I don't know what. I just picked up that old skin that the snake had shed and brought it home, kept it, placed it right beside my bed. That night, Bhoja came again. Yes, I only fixed the meeting. Where? In the kitchen. Night in the kitchen. And I brought my husband once again. Once again, Bhoja gave some excuse, some lame excuse, and once again, my husband behaved as if nothing has happened. He trusted Bhoja. And then casually, he pulled me to the bed. I was for him a mass of feminine flesh to play with. That night, while he lay there asleep, I was thinking, is loyalty, is trust, is duty, is Agni Pariksha only for a woman? Nothing for a man, huh? And that's when my eyes fell on that old skin of that snake. I remembered I remembered how the snake freely, happily slithered away after it did cast off its old skin. I thought, Lachi, now it's time for you to shed off your old skin. And I don't know how. My legs, my mind dragged me. Where? Towards my new skin, towards Bhoja's house. I thought, Bhoja loves me, dear friend. He cares for me so much. That would be my perfect new skin, to be happy, to be free. I reached there and I was about to knock. Shh! I heard a feminine voice telling, ah, Bhojaji, why me? Huh? What about you, that beauty Lachi? Oh, shut up. Don't even take her name. That low-born woman, what does she think of herself? Huh? Besides, woman is just a woman. Come close. Bhoja replied. My Bhoja, I thought my new skin replied. Huh? That is my new skin? Cha! Neither I want that old skin, nor I want this skin, neither that man, nor this man. I am fine to be me, myself, and be free. पंछी बनो उड़ती चलो मस्त गगन में आज मैं आजाद हूँ दुनिया के चमन में. Come on, friends, join me in my celebration. Join me in my celebration of freedom. Come on. पंछी बनो उड़ती चलो मस्त गगन में आज मैं आजाद हूँ दुनिया के चमन में. Thank you.
I mentioned in my poem, the narrative went on and on and on. But halt! Women stand up and discover themselves. Or do they? I'm sure all of you have discovered the answer to my question. From the valor of Abakka, the knowledge and strength of Ubhay Bharati, Giri's courage, and the girl that brought back her husband, resilient party, and her determination, the willingness of Maragadam, the intelligence and presence of mind of Parvati, goddess Sita's resolve, and finally, simple, beautiful Lacho. All these women liberated themselves and stood their speed.
And these stories of all these powerful women reminds me of those two powerful lines by Rabindranath Tagore, the world poet. Narike apon bhagyo joy koribar, keno nahi dibe odhikar? Why won't you give the right to a woman to win her own destiny? Why? Dear friends, this was our humble offering, celebration of the spirit of womanhood. And now I call upon all the beautiful tellers of this evening to share the source of their stories.
Well, I have researched this from many stories and many sources and had different versions of it. So I've tried to pick up a logical sequence in the stories and strung them together to form my adaptation of the story, the Rani Abakka Chauta.
The story of Ubhay Bharati and Adi Shankaracharya's debate, which was the latter half, which began with Mandana Mishra's debate with Adi Shankaracharya, is found in Adi Shankara's biography and the many stories written about Adi Shankaracharya. Thank you.
Nidhi Gujral's story was an adaptation of the tale The Bride for a Dead Man by A.K. Ramanujam's Flowering Tree and Other Tales. Nidhi is probably in a place where she cannot unmute and speak, and hence I'm telling it for her.
Hi, the story of Patti Meenakshi. It's a personal story of my maternal grandmother, and I'm her granddaughter. Thank you. It's a real life story.
Hi, this is Lavanya Prasad, and my story is an authored story by a very popular author called Anita Nair. It is an adaptation of her original story titled The Oil of Vitriol, which you can find in the book Lady Scoop. Please do read the original, it is absolutely amazing.
Hi, my story is written by Olga. Olga is her pen name. She's Lalita Kumari, a Telugu author who is 75 years old and still alive in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. And this is the English translation of that story. A part of one of the stories, all 5 stories, Liberation of Sita, originally written in Telugu.
Namaskar, I'm Sarita Nair. The story Parvati Bai and the Dacoits is a Maharashtrian folk tale, and that's what has been presented here today. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My story is an adaptation of a retelling of a Rajasthani folktale by Vijay Dandeta. The name of the retelling of Vijay Dandeta's story is Slow.
So
Yes.
thank you so much for being here today, all of you. Debu, would you like to take it forward?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Your presence, each one's presence matters a lot. The comments are so encouraging. Thank you, Eric, for accepting and giving us the space. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. That was great.
To everyone.
Thank you.